Story. The Director of Training for the Electoral Commission, Michael Bwedu, says a little over 2 million Ghanaians have registered after the first phase of the voters' registration exercise. In an interview with Maxwell Agbagba at the Rich Church Registration Center, he gave the EC a more than 80% success rate for the first week of the exercise.
How many people successfully registered in the first phase of the exercise?
Good. We're looking at about 2.2 million.
Wow. Yeah. 2.2 million as at the end of the fifth day, or
after the end of the fifth day, it's 1.8. But considering the fact that every day we get between 350,000 to 400,000, if you add that, because we are yet to add that of the sixth day, we're likely to get 2.2 million.
Okay.
For the first phase. And may I even add that out of these 2.2 million, those who registered using the NIA are about 64%.
Wow.
Yes. And those who registered using the guarantors, about 33. Just about 3% use passports. So that's the breakdown. So it means that people really have access to the Ghana card, largely, and that's what we are using. And it's a good development compared to the DLE, the registration, the supplementary registration that we did, where over 90% registered with guarantors form. Now the pattern is changing. So we're over 60% now using NIA card. And so we know with time, when more people will get access to the card, the guarantor situation will even phase out naturally. And everybody will register with a card in future exercises.
Wow.
Yeah.
So for the first phase, about 2 million people have registered. Is this significant enough? Are you impressed with these figures?
Yes, I am. I am impressed because the subsequent phases, where more police stations will be open and more machines will be sent there, we are likely to record more numbers.
That's all live on JoyNews Desk. Now, parents have stormed the Accra Girls Senior High School to withdraw their children after 6 of the students are suspected to have tested positive for COVID-19. They are, however, facing stiff opposition from the security personnel deployed on the ground to maintain peace and order. JoyNews' Maxwell Agbagba has more.
Some of their colleagues who have reportedly tested positive for the coronavirus, some of them are standing outside. They do not want to go to their classrooms. There were agitations earlier before we got here, but the police was actually called in to intervene in this matter. So some of them are still here. They are manning the gate, ensuring that these students who are agitated do not get out of the school compound. Yesterday, Sunday evening, when we came here, we saw some parents moving onto the campus to take their children home. A woman I met here, I was told her child is asthmatic, so she came to pick her together with a student mattress and her personal possessions. They drove off in a taxi. This morning, these students are also agitating to be released to go home. Some parents who are equally concerned by the situation are also gathered here, calling on school authorities to release the students so they go home. I have a parent here with me. You'll be joining me. Sir, you're welcome to join us.
Thank you so much.
What is the situation here at Accra Girls? You have a child here?
Yes, I have my ward here. She's in Form 2, Science.
Okay, Form 2 Science. Okay, so why are you here this morning?
Well, I'm here this morning to try to find out the situation, because last night we picked a feed that 6 students of Accra Girls have tested positive. And I know I have a ward here. I'm a concerned parent. We have a common platform for parents. Common platform for parents. And this is the case that when we had the situation, we try to speak or to pick information from the PT executives. What is happening to our wards here? The PT executives, nobody's talking. The chairman is not talking. The secretary, who's a teacher here, also refuses to talk. So definitely, we need to come to the school and they try to speak to the school authorities as to the situation of our wards here. And when we came to the school authorities, nobody is prepared to talk. Like I said earlier, PT is not prepared to talk. Almost anybody in the Accra school, nobody is prepared to talk. That is our worry here. Why don't you want to talk? Tell us the information. Because there's a saying that if you fail, to release the information, there is a tendency that people will speculate. So that is why we are here, because the speculation is so ripe. So we are here to try to find out from the school authority what is happening, what's the situation on the ground this morning. Okay. And nobody's prepared to talk to us.
Okay. You're saying that the parents, you have a WhatsApp platform. Yes. Did you put your concerns on that WhatsApp platform? Yeah. What was the response of the administration?
Yeah, we've put our concern this morning. Since last night, we've put our concern. So many parents, even somebody just called from Ashanti region that she's coming down to Accra because she was also posted in the PTA platform. Nobody's talking. Nobody, virtually nobody. We have to call the PTA chairman on his cell phone. PTA chairman, are you not talking? The PTA chairman says he himself, he doesn't know what is happening to the school. Because he also tried to get information from the school authority. The school authority themselves, they are not also prepared to tell the PTA anything. For that matter, he has nothing to tell to parents. That is our worry this morning, that we have to match to the school authority.
So tell me, who are those on that WhatsApp platform? Who are those on that WhatsApp platform? Are the school authorities on that WhatsApp platform?
Yes, we have the secretary to the PTA, who is a teacher, on the platform. And then almost all students, all parents, they are on the platform, with the exception of few who are not there. But even when they are not there, we try to call them on their personal cell phone and tell them if there's any situation here. Most of us are on the PTA platform, including the PTA chairman, who's a rep here. If anything, he should tell us, oh, parents, this is a situation, so just calm, this is a situation. But he himself is not prepared to talk to us. Definitely, we need to come here to find a situation.
Okay, so for you, are you part of those? Are you part of the parents who want to take their children back home? Are you part of that group?
I'm not prepared to take my child back home.
Okay.
What I'm here for, to try to look at the situation of my ward. If he's well, then I thank God. Not even my ward, but all students here. Yes, since I'm a parent, I'm concerned parent. Definitely, I need to be concerned to all students who are here. That is why we are here this morning. I'm not even coming here just for only my ward, but for all students of Accra Girls, because my ward is a part and parcel of students of Accra Girls. Because anybody can infect my ward, and my ward can infect anybody. That is why I'm here this morning to express my displeasure as to the school authorities, and I'm highly disappointed.
Okay. So as I speak to him, what's your name again, sir?
I'm Salifu Dabri.
Salifu Dabri. So as I speak to Salifu Dabri, there's a police vehicle moving to the school campus right now at this point. We do not know who is in that vehicle, but I want to believe the hierarchy of the police will be getting here soon to try and resolve this issue. But just some police officers who are standing outside ensuring that the agitations do not escalate. Do you think it was prudent for schools to reopen in the first place? I mean, but bearing in mind that your children had a final examination to write.
Yes, you know, my ward, she's in Form 2. And then I have another sister who's also in Form 3. She's a final year student.
Okay.
And this morning, my concern is that...
So your child is not final year, she's on one of the tracks?
Yes, she's one of the finalists. And she's here, by my own word, she's in Form 2. You see, so my situation here, I mean, the situation why we are here this morning, you see, a lot of parents, they try to look up upon us, to feed them with information. But as it stands now, I don't know why anything they try to use the police, anytime they try to use the police. So when we come here, the police will also give us the opportunity, at least even if it's one teacher or one authority, come out and tell the parent, this is the situation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We would love to speak to other parents. But just some minutes ago, I had an instruction from a man who came from the Kotobabi police station. He's in Mufti. He is telling the police officers standing outside here not to allow any parents to get access to the campus of the Accra Girls Senior High School. Let's speak to some of the parents who are gathered here. Let's find out from them why they've decided to come here this morning, what the issue really is about. But you're welcome to Joy News. Let's speak to you. Hi. You're welcome to join me.
You're welcome.
Okay. What's your name? What's your name? Okay, so...
That's Maxwell Agbagba interacting with some parents just outside Accra Girls Senior High School. Now, while that was ongoing, we understand the police official came out, and in the process of filming his interaction with the parents, he verbally assaulted the journalists who were gathered there. Take a look.
You will continue to plead with the parents to go home. he's urging them not to agitate. There are quite a number of media people here. He doesn't want the media men to get the information that is given to the parents. And this is not anything exclusive. He's just urging them to remain calm. Let's still listen to what is happening.
And we send this information on the platform. The school authority, nobody's talking to us. The PTA, nobody's selling anything. We know some teachers here, we call them on their cell phone privately to tell us, and they say, my friend, we can't talk. So what is the situation now? No any information, nobody sends anything. See, so that's the problem.
So the school should be addressing the parents.
The school should come and tell us.
But in what capacity are you addressing the parents? Because they are stakeholders here, they have their children here.
Look, you are a police officer.
There is no security threat here. There is nothing that breaches peace here.
We are telling the situation.
They are parents, they are concerned about their children. So in what capacity are you addressing them?
They are in the hands of some people.
The parents don't know that.
They told you when they were vacating, they said they don't want your children to use them. Were you not aware?
We are aware.
No, were you not aware?
But now there's a situation, so the school should be addressing them.
Don't record me. Don't record me.
No, it's not recording you.
Don't record me.
No.
Take away. I said don't record me.
This is a public institution. It's a public institution. Whatever information you are giving here,
well, at this point, the police officer who came in the Kotobabi police station patrol car is attacking one of the media people here. He's attacking one of the media people here reporting from the Accra Girls Senior High School. Earlier, he charged on our camera technician, questioning him why he was filming him. And just some seconds ago, you saw that between him and then the media man here. There's a journalist who was recording with his recorder. The commander wouldn't allow him to record. There's another police officer preventing media men from reporting on the situation here at Accra Girls Senior High School. So that is the situation here at Accra Girls. The man we believe to be the commander of the... He came in the vehicle of the Kotobabi police station.
Not all the parents are here.
We are not too sure about his position, but he came in a vehicle of the Kotobabi police station. Yes, he came in the patrol vehicle of the Kotobabi police station. He's believed to be one of the superiors of the police officers here. He's charging on the media people here.
So you're not behaving civil. It's the truth.
So this is still ongoing here at Accra. Let's see how this pans out.
But you can't say the media should not record you. Whatever information you're giving here, the public deserves to hear it.
You're telling me I should be civilized. Are you civilized yourself? Mind your words. What do you mean that I'm civilized? Your language should be decent. What do you mean? You say you're a media. Is that the way you talk? Telling me I should be civilized. You're telling me I should be civilized. You think somebody can be a journalist or what?
No, it's not referring to you.
What do you mean? You think the journalism is going to do? I'm not capable of doing it. I say journalism, I'm not capable of doing it. Let the language be decent. What do you mean? You are telling me I should be civilized.
So that is what is happening here. The man you're hearing in the background, the man in the mufti who is not in uniform, is the boss here of the police officers here. He's the superior of the police officers here. He's not happy that the president...
We'll come back to dealing with COVID later in the bulletin, but now the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, former President John Dramani Mahama, is expected to officially unveil his running mate for the 2020 presidential elections today. The National Executive Committee, NEC, meets today at 11 a.m. and Mr. Mahama is expected to present either the former Education Minister, Professor J. Nano Pokwajimai, a former Director General of the National Development Planning Commission, NDPC, Dr. Isaac Bannerman Nimoy Thompson, a former Minister of Health and Deputy Campaign Manager for the 2020 elections, Mr. Alex Segbefia, or a former Finance Minister, Dr. Kwabena Dufour, as his choice of a running mate. Joining us via Zoom is Dr. Ali Duseidu, Senior Lecturer, Political Science Department, University of Ghana, and head of political desk, Joy News, Evans Mensah. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Daniel.
Great. Doc, straight off the bat, I mentioned 4 names, Dr. Kwabena Dufo, Mr. Alex Tegbefia, Professor Jena Nopo-Kwajumai, and Dr. Nimoy Thompson. Which 2 would you drop off immediately?
That is a very difficult question. But if you ask me, I will rather give a general and specific criteria that you can both use to drop 2 from the list, rather than just dropping them. So 1, there are specific and generic criteria that you can use to select a running mate. The first thing has to do with the fact that the running mate should be able to work with the flag bearer. So the vice president should be able to work with the president. So I don't think a flag bearer will choose a candidate that he or she will not be able to work with. So there should be 1, an element of compatibility. Then 2, that person should have a little bit of governance skills. Because as a running mate or a vice president, you are just a heartbeat away from the presidency. So you should have the skills to manage the country in the absence of the president.
Right, Dr. Saidu.
Then 3, it should a presidential match, not just choosing a candidate that is going to partner the flag bearer, but in the event of anything, that candidate should be able to lead the party into subsequent elections or next elections, whichever comes earlier. So that person himself should be a presidential material and should have a constituency within the party. Is very important. Now, when you come back to the specifics, there are several ways that a running mate can balance the ticket of the flag bearer. In the history of the Fourth Republic, we've had about 4 or 5 balancing elements. 1, ethnicity. People always choose their tickets to choose candidates to balance their ticket based on ethnicity. We have regionalism. That is the region that you come from. Central regionalism is also of gender. Gender has been coming in strongly, and then to some extent age, and then experience. But what we haven't seen what we have not put into consideration over the years is also an element of resources. If, especially in an opposition party, the candidate that is being selected to run with the flag bearer should be somebody who can also raise funds or bring a lot of resources to bear on the campaign. So when you look at these, both the generic and specifics, then you can see that Nimoy Thompson represents maybe a specific constituency. From the name, I think maybe he's Ga from Greater Accra region. And if you look at the history of, if I'm right, if you look at the history of the NDC, they have always been a section of the party that agitates that they haven't given the Ga people the kind of prominence that they need in the balance of ticket of the party. Moving forward, they need to get somebody who should be able to balance it. But if you look at the campaign manager that they have just named, John Mahman's campaign manager is from Greater Accra, so it's from Greater Accra region. It's a Ga. So to that extent, that can they have factored into that element of consent, and that a little bit addresses it. Then if you look at Nana Mens, Opoku Ajiman. She's coming from the central region, and I guess a Fanti. The NDC have experimented a lot with central region and with Fantis from the time of Kowaka, 1992, moving forward to Evans Mills, to our late Vice President, Kwesi Amisa Arthur, and all those things. But in most cases, they have not been able to reap the benefits of that particular balance in their ticket since the Fourth Republic. To some extent, they have been able to get a lot. But if you look at most of the times that they have selected them, the central region have delivered to other candidates other than that particular ticket.
Okay.
Then if you look at Kwabena Dufo, yes, he balances the ticket on age. He's a little bit older than the candidate. He has had a lot of experiences managing businesses in the country, so he can create jobs. He has people-centered and people management skills. But usually the issue people raise again is the fact that if he's this old and you are looking at the exuberance of the NDC ticket coming from Bawumia, how are they going to eat into the youthful vote?
There's also the question of the banking saga crisis, Dr. Seidu. There's also the question of the banking sector crisis, which worried his organization. So if I were to ask, it looks like it's going to be Jane Opoku-Agyeman from what you're saying. She has the region on her side and, you know, the numbers from that side.
Gender on her side.
Gender on her side.
Age.
And then who? Age.
And to some extent, the academic community is one of her constituencies. Looking at her background and the history of administration at the public university domain, it could also be one of the constituents that she can rally around and bring on board. But I'm not saying that until the
former president chooses
the flag bearer of the NDC status on the candidate, we should be able to assess the merits and the demerits to the ticket moving forward.
Right. So Evans, I guess Dr. Seidu just mentioned that given the criteria that he mentioned earlier, Professor Jane Opoku-Agyeman should be in the lead. We've had these conversations in the past where, funny enough, none of the front runners that are being considered now came up. First of all, why would you count them as front runners in the first place? And the final two.
I mean, the front runners for me have always been Professor Boche, Dufour, Nana Opoku-Agyeman, obviously, and of course, we all know that Alex Mode was also being considered. Now, the decision is Mahama's to make. If I've heard a lot of people say, well, Nana Opoku-Agyeman, I think Doc also makes the same point about Jane being the best fit for them. I doubt if that is as clear cut as that, and I actually disagree. It is the best decision to make for John Mahama, but again, he only has the prerogative to make. I mean, for me, why would any political party need a running mate? The central question, cut out all the noise around this. The only reason the NDC needs to make a running mate decision for now is because they have an election to prosecute on December 7th. The only consideration for me is they want to win the December 7th election, pure and simple. The constitutional issues, as in the person's ability to play their role effectively and efficiently, etc., I believe will become very relevant after they win the elections. If they lose elections, none of those things matter. So the number one thing that John Mahama must consider, and I believe it's the NDC's main consideration, is who can help John Mahama win the 2020 elections December 7th.
Can Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman do that?
Sorry, say that again?
Can Prof help John Mahama to win the election in 2020?
Yes, he can. And I was going to answer the question. You should answer that question, who is best placed to help John Mahama win the elections? You need to look back to 2016 and ask the questions, why did the NDC lose the 2016 elections? If you answer that question, then you have to fix the challenges which accounted for their defeat. Now, that question, why they lost the 2016 elections, comes with an obvious answer. If you look at the results that they got in 2016, the historical 1 million votes that they normally NDC will carry into any elections, they lost that. They lost that. In the fourth Republican elections history, the NDC had always come to the party with 5 million votes. And then plus or minus, and then if at the MPP 2 plus or minus, you win after you account for your 5 million. They failed to bring that to the 2016 elections. It comes back to the fundamental question of somebody who can partner John Mahama to galvanize their base. Point is, the base that the NDC had relied on for decades to win elections, somehow were pathetic. And this was confirmed by many of the polling that we did.
And the voter turnout in 2016. So we are looking at Nimoy Thompson and Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman now. None of them, from what you are saying, really strike me as your grassroots campaigners, your party people who have been dying the wool for a while. What do you think?
That's exactly my point. That if any of these two individuals are in fact in the reckoning, and any of them really get the nod, I will be astonished that John Mahama made a decision. But listen, he has the prerogative. My point is, if he makes John Nana Opoku-Agyeman the running mate, it will be a massive gamble. A massive gamble. And that will also apply to Nimoy Thompson. A massive gamble. Now, what the challenge with gambles is, if it works, it will be a spectacular surprise. But if it fails, it will be a spectacular failure. I mean, there are no gray areas in there.
Okay.
And if John Mahama makes that decision and chooses any of these two, it will be a massive gamble that will really be tested on December 7th.
Right. So what Evans sought to do, Dr. Seidu, was bring his own marking scheme to the conversation and say that this is the basis upon which John Mahama should even consider picking a candidate. If I can put you to that question, we put Prof. Nana Opoku-Agyeman in the head. Is she someone who is the raw campaigner who can galvanize the base of the party?
I agree with some of the analysis of Evans, right? If all the candidates that the current leading candidates, if you ask me, all of them have a kind of advantage and a disadvantage. But there are two things we must consider. The running mate is supposed to balance the ticket to be able to help the candidate win. Yeah, so now winning an election, selecting a running mate is just one of several variables that can help a president, a running mate or a ticket win an election. The other is also looking at the performance of the current government. So we always say every election is a census on the performance of the incumbent. Are people still feeling the same way, the kind of apathy that they felt towards the NDC in 2016? Are people still feeling the same way, having experienced almost 4 years governance of the NDC, MPP, Nana Akufo-Addo government? If that feeling is still correct, then we still stand to reason that the 5 million votes, roughly 44-45% of the total votes that the NDC always get, may not be up to. And what can they do about it? So the first point we have to look at is that the running mate, the selection of the running mate is very important, but that one alone doesn't let you win or lose. There are other variables that you have to deal with. I agree with Evans when he talks about apathy. One of the serious issues that came out in most of the research that was conducted.
Dr. Seidu, unfortunately, would have to bring the conversation to an end at this point. Evans, thank you very much for joining us. Unfortunately, we weren't really able to get to an end point on who is able to, who the former president should be able to pick, but I'm hoping that the conversation so far guides you in a sort of way to help you gauge who the former president should be able to pick. All right, then, let's move to other issues. And the increase in the number of cases of COVID-19 in Ghana has prompted calls for behavioral change, communication to be intensified to compel the public to adhere to enshrined protocols to curb spread. Joining us on Zoom is Professor Yosin, a public health expert, and Dr. Letitia Adelaide, a peer Executive Director, National Population Council. Good morning. Good morning. Right. Unfortunately, we are not exactly ready. Now, the World Health Organization, though, has said that Ghana is one of the countries that is that is driving the increase in COVID-19 cases in Africa. This is in a backdrop of the WHO saying that 190,000 people will die from COVID-19 and between 29 and 44 million people will be infected. Listen to Dr. Mary Stephen, who is Technical Director for the WHO Regional Office in Senegal.
The number of of cases you see when you test depends on the kind of transmission pattern you have. So really, if you have community transmission, you will pick quite a number of cases when you test. And even if you do not test, for instance, we said earlier 20%, 15% will present with severe disease and 5% with critical illness. So you have 20%, which is quite a number of cases, especially in big countries. So they will present in the hospitals at the end of the day, or it will present as community death, which will be picked. So, but if you have a country that is reporting sporadic cases or cluster of cases, no matter how much you test, you will still not pick so many cases. So it actually depends on the kind of transmission you have in country.
What you're saying is that argument is moot.
So like I said, yes, it depends on the transmission. The number of cases you pick, it depends on the transmission pattern. So if you have community cases, you will pick more cases. Community transmission, you will pick more cases, definitely.
Right, it's all live on JoyNews Desk with me, Daniel Dazi. Let's go on Zoom. Professor Yosin is a public health expert, and Dr. Letitia Adleda-Pia, Executive Director, National Population Council. Now, Dr. Letitia Adleda-Pia, you are the head of the National Population Council. Could Ghana's population, somewhere around 31 million, and the density of our urban areas be a cause for the high number of COVID-19 cases we're seeing in recent times? Right, Dr. Apia, can you hear me?
Well, thank you so much for your... Yeah, I can hear you intermittently, unfortunately, but I can hear you. Can you hear me?
You're live on air. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. You know, yes, population dynamics and density are very important in this pandemic. As we already know, looking at the spread, we have a great in Kumasi being the most densely populated areas. And so it's not surprising that we have most cases from there, because the stay of COVID is social distancing, hand washing, but then with high population density, it's difficult to obey those protocols. So it means we really have to do a lot more in Greater Accra and Kumasi, focusing a lot more on the mask, making sure that in open spaces, in crowded spaces, we mask up and obey the protocols. If you look at regions where the population density
it seems we have a bit of a challenge with Dr. Pierre's Zoom connection. We are finding it difficult to hear her. So we would go to Professor Yosin, who is a public health expert. I think we caught the summary of what Dr. Pierre was saying, which was that because Accra and Kumasi are densely populated, it's no surprise that these two places are hotspots. Would you agree with that line of thought, Professor Yosin?
Exactly, that's what Letitia has said. Yes, it's true. The transmission pattern of the COVID-19 is now quite well understood, and we know any event that brings a lot of people together, or events that bring a lot of people together, mass gathering, has the potential to increase transmission.
Right.
And unfortunately, we are having a lot of events occurring almost simultaneously in the country, and that is really where our challenge now is. Events that bring a lot of people together in closed areas and spaces. Events like the voter registration exercise? Certainly. If we as individual adult Ghanaians cannot adhere to simple protocols, that is very challenging, and in fact it's challenging for everybody, because we should protect ourselves and protect others. And if we just cannot obey those simple social distancing rules, we cannot wear our masks, and we cannot be patient and be in line and go and do the registration, it really leaves much to be desired, and it's very difficult to to understand and to manage, knowing very well the pandemic situation we are dealing with.
Now, Dr. Appiah, would you then say that because the population distribution is part of the problem, one of the lessons we can pick going forward will be implementing measures to control the growth of our population?
Well, population dynamics is everything, because even how we respond to the pandemic, it really is influenced by population dynamics. If you have young people who are poor and are living on the street, for instance, then implementing your protocols. The protocols are universal, but then you adapt it to your situation based on your peculiar dynamics. And so if we have, for instance, so many poor people who cannot feed, who cannot have water to wash their hands, who cannot have safe living places, then we really have to rethink the quality of life that a Ghanaian should have. And if a Ghanaian's quality of life should have, then we should be thinking about the quality and the numbers in sync, so that in case there's another pandemic that we all have to run home, we would have safe homes where there's water, where there's toilet facilities, where we can feed and stay for at least for 2 weeks without having to go out.
And how do we manage
really
these dynamics? How do we manage these dynamics? What are the top 3 measures that we should apply?
Well, the top 3 measures we should apply is planning our families. Because without planning, you can't do anything.
Okay.
If you cannot plan your cities if you are not planning the families, because the family is the unit of society. And
so that's
if
one.
we plan our
planning is one.
And say that the Ghanaian in the 21st century, in the knowledge era, should be a highly skillful, educated Ghanaian, then we have to look at the number that we can comfortably, skillfully educate, well-nourished, and well catered for development.
So family planning is one, and
so that should be the basis. If you cannot plan the family, I don't see how you can plan the nation.
Right,
because the family is made up of the nation is made up of family.
I asked for 3. Family planning is one, and or is it just family planning?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me take that thought to Professor Yosin. Professor Yosin, so you agree that the long-term solution to controlling population growth so that we can manage our resources well is family planning?
Yes, as Dr. Letitia said, it's key. Family planning is key. And also another key activity is education, and especially educating the girl child. If we as a nation can keep the girl child in school for longer, going forward, that is one massive investment that will yield a lot of dividend for the future population. If you keep the young girl in school for longer, she will delay the time she will start giving birth, and also delay the number she can possibly give birth to, because she will start late and will not have the luxury. But if she gives birth at 18, by the time she is 36, she is a grandmother, because the child she gave birth to at 18 has also started giving birth.
Right.
But if you keep her in school for longer, then this will be what we call a demographic dividend and a social dividend for the country going forward as well. So keeping the girl child, educating both boy and girl child, but keeping the girl child in school for longer than we are doing now is also a key factor.
I'm very grateful, Professor Yosin and Dr. Letitia Appiah for joining us this morning. It's the live on News Desk. Now, in the first part, we told you about the various policies government over the years outlined to help in the fight against illegal fishing. These included bringing on board fishing observers to serve as frontline defenders against an overfishing crisis. Guess what? It's exactly 1 year since one fishing observer, Emmanuel Essien, was declared missing at sea without a trace. Aaron, his family says it is yet to receive the outcome of the investigation. All these compelling details are in our latest Hotline documentary.
The European Union in 2014 placed a ban on the export of fish from Ghana to Europe. This, among other things, was related to the illegal, unregulated and unreported cases, also known as the IUUs. This action led government in 2015 to launch the Fisheries Management Plan to provide a strategic framework for reversing the declining trend of fish resources. But even then, there's been little or no improvement in the sector, and less than 10% of the plan has been implemented.
The 2020 deadline we gave, it could be plus or minus. So let's pray that it is plus 2 years and not minus 1 or 2 years. At least we still see cyclefish, which means there are some mature ones who have been reproducing. Yeah. I checked this last week.
Just last week.
And last Friday, I ate cyclefish. You know, who has stopped?
Exactly.
And we are deceiving ourselves to our own future detriment. Why? Why do we do that?
The observers were supposed to be the eye of the law enforcers at sea. Their job is to report and record activities of illegal fishing on the trawlers. But despite the presence of these observers, the fish store continues to deplete. Today, Mr. Kote sits at the beach wondering where to get money to feed his family in the coming days.
Next can one year wape. Now when one year go up on I no Nibadiano to bar. No now like a fishing trawler say. Now I'm on shore here. I'm a momolo, I'm a bad shipong. Now I'm a bad buolo, the time back below a time bena. I can't any war hoye. I can't message them. I can't met when Robin on a fishing trawler say. I'm a make be all.
Research conducted by EFG in 2017 revealed that approximately 100,000 tons of fish were landed through cycle, out of the total 167,000. What this means is that just 40% of catches were landed legally and reported to the Fisheries Commission, despite observers being present on a number of vessels.
Documentary. Catch the second part of it tonight on this channel. So live on News Desk with me, Daniel Dazi. Daryl Kwao is back in studio with business after this.
Hi, good morning. Time for business. My name is Daryl Kwao. Talks are underway between the management of Metro Mass Transit and workers after the workers embarked on a strike last Friday over unpaid salaries. Let's get you the latest from Nana Sensu Mensah, who is following the talks for us. How did the talks go, Nana?
Hello, Daryl. Hello, Daryl.
How did the talks go, Nana? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Daryl. The management of the Metro Mass Transit are still in talks with the aggrieved workers. Today is the 4th day since the workers laid down their tools to embark on a sit-down strike. And then they are singing one song. They are saying that they want management to pay the outstanding 2.5 months arrears, salary arrears to them, else they won't resume their positions. But when we got here earlier this morning, we saw the management, especially the TUC executives over here, engaging the aggrieved workers and then convincing them to, get back to work, because they say that government is in talks with them and then their arrears will be paid before Friday. But from all indications, it seems that the aggrieved workers have taken entrenched positions They told me that they are not returning to their positions until their outstanding arrears are paid to them. That is what they are saying. So it's still a back and forth thing, but over here it's more or less a breakdown system here. All the buses are not moving because of the sit-down strike. Behind this fence, stranded commuters who actually came in here to, board the Metromass bus to their destinations are also stranded. They told me that they are quite disappointed to have come here to, see no bus in the yard. But quickly, I have with me the Deputy Managing Director of the Metromass Transit, Nana Osai Banfo. I want to ask you a few questions concerning the sit-down strike. Welcome to JoyNews, sir.
Thank you, my brother.
Tell me, when are you paying the standard arrears?
We should be, currently, as I speak to you, the management, together with the TUC, the junior and senior staff, are meeting in Accra. I've been asked to come here so we can, see how best we can talk to our employees here to go back to work. It seems as if they are waiting to hear something from them before they go back to work. And I know they are almost through, and so we are pleading with our passengers to just bear with us for a short period of time. Our drivers, our mechanics will go back to work. It's nothing that cannot be resolved. It's true, yes, we haven't been able to pay them since May. We are a social intervention. We are an IGF. We have to generate funds with the revenue that we make on the buses that moves. And so with this COVID-19, during lockdown, we couldn't work for a whole month. After the lockdown, we've been experiencing this social distancing. And so we can even generate enough sometimes to even pay for fuel, talk less of paying for salaries. And so we are pleading with our staff and the general public to exercise patience with us and to give us the opportunity to serve them. We have not ignored them. We understand the situation. We know the situation in which they find ourselves. It's not just them. I haven't been paid either. But we have to exercise patience. The government has intervened. They are willing and ready to help. And so they should give us some time. Everything is going to be smooth.
Okay, but from all indications, it seems what you've been telling them, you've been convincing them to return to their post, they are not heeding to your plea. What will become of them? Are you going to sideline them and then recruit new workers, or what's the way forward?
And that's not a resolution. I mean, there's nothing that cannot be resolved. They understand the situation in which we find ourselves. So it's not like we have decided not to heed to what they are saying. They understand that we are a social intervention. We are not even a company that's meant to make profits. As long as we break even, we're able to pay our salary, we're able to pay for parts, and be able to take care of petty issues. So they would not, they are not going to. We wouldn't say we wouldn't pay them simply because, or sideline them and go hire people simply because they have refused to work. I can assure you that before the end of today, they are going to go back to work. I can assure you.
Some of their concerns were that, one, their glycol, their tier 1, tier 2 have not been sorted out for a couple of months now. Also, they also told me that some of the buses are grounded with some minor faults which need some few cities to be, bring them back on the streets. What do you have to say to that?
It's not, it's an issue, just like you said. I mean, our priority is to be able to pay for salary. Looking at our workforce, we have almost 2,900, close to 3,000 employees. And if you look at the number of buses we are routing now, our priority would be focused on paying for salary. Anything else we may have to put on hold. Because if we decide we want to use everything to go pay for
to pay our people rather than pay for parts rather than using it to pay salary. This is the situation that we find ourselves. A company that used to generate over 200,000 cedis a day is currently doing about less than 4,000 cedis. And like you said, it may look like it's minor. It may be fan belts, it may be brakes, it may be ties, but you should understand that as a company, we are under PPA. So somebody supplied you something, you haven't been able to pay them, yet you expect them to supply more. So this is the situation in which we find ourselves. If at the moment, let's say someone supplied you 1 million cedis worth of stuff, you've not been able to pay them, yet you need about 50,000 to move buses. Okay. Are you going to take that 50,000 to that person, or you are going to buy? If you decide to go and buy, that person has every right to take you on because you have some money to pay for stuff, cash. But then if you give that person 50,000, that person is not willing to supply more because he needs more than that 50,000 to be able to supply you. Right.
Daryl, this is the Deputy Managing Director for the Metromass Transit, Nana Osei-Banfo. Behind me and around me are the aggrieved workers. And then it seems that, let me get closer to them, and then if I could speak to some of them to find out if indeed after the TUC engagement with them, they will really get back to work. Please come closer to me. What is your name?
Thomas Ekosaki.
Thomas Eko, okay, sure. Let me engage a different person also here. Okay, talk to me. What's your name?
Soga.
Soga, are you a mechanic?
Yeah, I'm a mechanic.
So what is, are you listening to the TUC's plea for you to return to your post?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Please, I beg you.
Okay, it's a live thing.
It's a live thing, but we are about concluding our meeting. Okay. So give us a few time, as I've spoken already to you, so that we will reach consensus. I will get back to you.
Okay. So, Daryl, it seems the workers and then the TUC executives are still in talks over here. We hope that they will come at a consensus and then, come up with a resolution that is going to profit the commuters. Because as it stands, commuters...
All right, we have to break away from Nana Sensu-Mensah there. We are following that for you. We will bring you an update when a consensus is reached. Before I go, the majority leader, Osei Mensah Bonsu, is this week expected to firm up mid-year review presentation date with Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. The two would have to agree on the date, even though the presentation would be carried out by the Finance Minister. Sources say Parliament had initially proposed the third week of this month. However, this meeting would give a specific date. The Finance Minister is expected to use the presentation to announce a fresh package that would help stabilize the economy in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's it for business.